Do you think that's enough drink you're pouring in there?
Hey, welcome back to A Drink with Jeff. I'm Jeff, which is good because there's no one else here in the studio. Before we get started, I'd like to state to everyone out there, I hope that this show finds you and all whom you care about in good health, physically and mentally. And with that, we can proceed. As we always do, we have a cast of characters to work with here at the show who serve various purposes. One of the people we have on what we're calling the bench, because we don't have a sofa, is the man we all know, Mr. Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head is still in. He's serving as our counterpoint in many of the conversations we have today. Next up on the docket is, of course, the man who's responsible for introducing our particular alcohol of the week. This would be, standing in for the second week, SpongeBob SquarePants. Hey, SpongeBob. As you can see, SpongeBob this week is working with Don Julio Tequila Reposado. And we do have that. We have a glass here for the drinking portion of the show, which will be a little later. Okay, so we're good on that. We are excited to introduce a new section to the show. We've been getting in some responses, which is really cool. And of course, we want to address those. We want to make sure that the people who are spending the time to communicate with us realize we recognize that and appreciate it and want to communicate back. So let's get right into that new segment of our show. It's called Letters from the World. Okay, so Letters from the World. Our first letter was from a gentleman calling himself Sir Duke. And Sir Duke was commenting on the fact that we had made a connection in the first show between Jane Fonda and Jane Fonda's character, who was a drinker in the show she was on. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It's Grace and something. Anyway, no issue. He said, well, do you have any reason to believe that perhaps the drinking caused the problem? Well, I don't know the answer to that. I've never played a doctor on TV, and I am definitely not a doctor. So I don't have an answer. But we're going to say we hope not, because if, in fact, on a show called A Drink with Jeff, drinking is a problem, you can see where this compounds the circumstance in an area that we'd prefer not to go into. Let's get an opinion, though. Let's get a second opinion on what we think. Let's go to our man out there waiting to comment, Mr. Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head, are you there? Mr. Potato Head, are you there? Mr. Potato Head? Well, apparently Mr. Potato Head has made his opinion known. He is not going to ride the whiskey train. I guess he doesn't drink, which is odd that he would be on this show, but it's always good. Perhaps he's going to keep us grounded since he doesn't drink, if you see what I'm saying. All right, so on to our second letter from the crowd. This would be a letter from an old friend of the show. You may remember when the show was in the other studio. A gentleman by the name of the Reluctant Mechanic. He has a lot of history with the show. And he wanted to comment on the fact that, there still wasn't a whole lot of drinking going on. He's right. He is completely correct. We are going to have drinking in the sense that we're going to actually drink and express what we feel about the particular alcohol on the show, as we should, because it's A Drink with Jeff, which is where it started. Again, I think it's only proper that we go to Mr. Potato Head and see what he thinks on this particular issue. Mr. Potato Head, are you there? Mr. Potato Head?
The piano has been drinking.
Everything's a drama with Mr. Potato Head. Do you know what I mean? Is it necessary? We don't know. We don't know. Okay, so our last letter of the week came in from a person titling themselves the Stoker. And the Stoker's question was more of a question than a comment, was, are we on A Drink with Jeff going to make any kind of comment regarding the passing of the Queen? Let me be clear on this. I don't have a comment to make. I was born in the United States. I'm not a UK citizen. She wasn't my queen, and I was never her subject. So I'm not really in a position to make a comment. However, as is true, she seems to be loved or beloved by millions, in which case I can say it's always sad when someone who's loved passes. That creates great grief on those who love that person, and of course will learn to miss them. So for those people, I would like to state my condolences. Now, this is our last one, but of course, we do need to get an opinion from Mr. Potato Head. So let's go to him and see what he has to say. All right, so I know having Mr. Potato Head's opinion is important to the show, but we can't always be responsible for what he thinks is important, if you follow what I'm saying. All right, with that out of the way, we've covered the letters for the week. Let's move on to the essence of this week's show. So to do that, let's bring it up. I think it's important. It is kind of a tie-in because obviously the Queen is Queen of England. And the person we're going to start with on this portion of the show is a person from England. So let's bring him up here. All right. This gentleman, if you don't recognize him, his name is Neville, or was Neville Chamberlain. He was the Prime Minister of the UK from 1937 through 1940. He was considered to be a good man. Let's be clear. There's nothing about Neville Chamberlain that was, I've never read anything that was necessarily a negative in any way. However, the sad part of Neville Chamberlain is that what is he remembered for? He's remembered for the signing of the Munich Agreement in 1938, which basically ceded the Sunderland and regions of Czechoslovakia to Nazi Germany. It was seen as really a sign of appeasement to Hitler and gave him, in a way, a green light to do what went on to be World War II, to attack Poland and essentially, in the end, take over most of Europe. And unfortunately, it has been looked at that the legacy of Neville Chamberlain pretty much falls into that bucket. It's a shame because that's not a good thing for him. So let's compare that now to another person that is currently in the news a lot. This is Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I believe I've gotten Volodymyr correct. I may not have. And if I haven't, I apologize. But it's as close as I can get to announcing his name, pronunciating his name. He is currently the president of the Ukraine, a country that is currently being attacked by Russia. And he is not taking a stance of appeasement. He is taking the warrior stance and saying that they will fight. They will fight here. They will fight now. They will fight with every tool in their arsenal. And they will continue to fight until, in fact, they believe that they have won. There's a difference here in the approach. You can't appease fascists. It's not possible. Fascists have no appeasement because there's no end game. There's an end game. There's no middle point in the end game. They win and you lose. That's the game. And for Mr. Zelenskyy, he recognizes that and is determined to make sure that that is not going to happen in the Ukraine. I bring this up because I think we are at a point around the world where we have to recognize that as much as it's popular to state that we need to find a way to go along and get along, and in no way does this show want to promote violence in any form whatsoever. However, it can't be stated that you can always go along and get along with those who you can find no connection with. So, if someone makes a reasonable request, you can find ways to compromise. But if someone makes an outlandish statement or a demand that essentially puts as a threat people that you know, people that you love, people that you have invested your life into, that's not a point of compromise. There is no compromise where in fact that compromise provides a method for those who are the attackers to gain something that they did not justifiably have. So I want to state that I believe that history will treat Mr. Zelenskyy much more favorable than it will treat or has treated Neville Chamberlain, because in the end, war and fighting are not pretty events. It's not a movie, it's real. And you only get one chance to do the right thing in these circumstances. So I'd like to bring that to a conclusion by, in fact, breaking up a toast to Mr. Zelenskyy. Because I feel that that's what we should do. We should honor those who are doing what we would hope we would do under the same circumstance. So, to Mr. Zelenskyy, I'd like to offer this toast. Don Julio Reposado. Let's see what we got here. Okay, for those who like tequila, I'm going to describe it the way Luke would do. It's dry. The pinch is at the back of your palate. It's smooth. I think they call that a little fruity. I'm going to go with that. And the burn starts right here at the top of your chest plate and runs down. But it is a very, very good drink. Don Julio Reposado. To you, Volodymyr. All right. That wraps up our show. And before we go out, I'd like to let everybody know that there are good people in this world. Volodymyr is a good person. There are many, many good people in this world. We need to recognize that. But more importantly than recognizing that, we need to be one. There are good people in this world. Be one. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.